Hello and welcome to Raising the Barr, the go-to podcast for business owners and entrepreneurs looking to elevate their marketing game. Talking of entrepreneurs, we are joined by a serial entrepreneur today. He started his career by owning a nightclub in London before he got a big break in Formula One by none other than Bernie Ecclestone. Today, he is the CEO of MyOcean, a luxury yacht brokerage, and Your Sky, a private jet brokerage. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jonny Dodge.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm very well, mate. Thank you for joining us on this Saturday morning.
Absolutely, excited to chat.
Amazing, mate. Well, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here. This is definitely a podcast I'm excited about. We've got so much to cover.
Yes.
A lot. But before we do that, let's head right back to the beginning. How did you start out? What made you want to approach this career in luxury travel, experiences, everything luxury, really?
Well, I think it was my passion for it. I mean, it's so exciting the career opportunities and what I found when I was younger and what I was looking for. And I started off in London, like you say, and going and taking my master's degree up there, hanging around, meeting people. And I started to realize that the connections that I was making and the opportunities that brought me. So I started to realize my value was in creating these connections, and it was so exciting to meet all of these people that then and the experiences they had to offer, and I got these opportunities to go to all these celebrity parties and events and this lifestyle around it. So I really got wrapped up in that world very quickly when I was younger, and that then led on to so many things. I was like, what can I do? So I really started with the idea of following my passions first. What's exciting? Oh, of course, I want to go to these events, see these things, my love of cars and travel. So I just started following my passions and then worked out how that would ever turn into a business far later down the line. That wasn't my focus, first of all. It was following what I found fun.
So if you follow what's fun, it means it's not work at all, doesn't it?
Exactly.
So obviously you were in London. Talk us through that opportunity, because back in the day, like I said to you before, I remember Aura, one of the top hotspots in London.
Yeah.
How did that opportunity arise for you to end up owning that at a young age?
Well, that was exciting. I mean, like I come out of uni, was there, knew that nightlife scene because I was hanging around in it. And prior to that, I was organising the Gumball Rally, and that gave me that network and that understanding of what was going on. And it was time to move on, and had an opportunity. Nightclubs were paying great money back then, so I worked at one for a little bit, and then found some opportunity to buy a club. And fortunately, with support of my mum, and I said, look, that money we've put aside to buy a house for me when I get older, how about I buy a nightclub with it? And she said, look, if that's what you think makes sense. So yeah, I did, and put my investment into that. And at the time, I then brought in a business partner who was a friend of mine, Tony Fernandez, and became a great mentor. So very much the Richard Branson of Asia, for those who don't know him, and had his airline, his Formula One team that he then subsequently bought, QPR Football Club, like you said. So having that guy as a mentor was so valuable to me and really changed my perspective on things completely. And I saw a point where after just coming out of uni, getting your first job, but having someone alongside you that owned an airline, a Formula One team, it was like, well, why can't I do that? And setting that as the base level of what's possible started to change my outlook on a lot of things. And then having the platform of the nightclub was just such an amazing thing, because everyone wants to meet the owner of the coolest club in town, which it was for a short period of time, as these things are. But that then meant that all these celebrities wanted to meet you, all these billionaires. That was where that platform gave me the opportunity to grow from there. So it really was a great stepping stone. Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting point you made about Tony there, that he let you see this bigger perspective to life. Because I think, particularly in the UK, but in every country, there's so many people we see who in their early 20s or mid-20s experience that success in nightclubs. They've all of a sudden are the main promoter or the owner of the hotspot for a while. And unfortunately, with a lot of them, by 40, their life seems to have dropped off a cliff. But do you know what I mean there? There's a lot of people who don't really push on from that point, whereas for you, you've gone from strength to strength. Do you think it was those people around you that pushed you to do that? Or what made you think this isn't enough, I want to keep going forward?
Yeah, very much. I mean, look, for me, I always, that key adage, which you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I was always driven by business first, and what didn't get caught up in that world of partying and whatever else. So yeah, I was passionate about the business of that and of entertainment at the time. And so trying to being around those people, understanding what that was like, and then his network, and then what grew on from there. So, and that very quickly then led on to Formula One, which for me at the time was probably the most exciting business on earth, I felt like, and certainly for me at least. And I couldn't think of anything more pinnacle. So it was so exciting to then leverage that opportunity, the networks, the celebrity, the brand, and connect with everything there. So I very quickly, it was then led on to a world of big business.
And that brand connection from being with Formula One, did that just take your personal brand, the business brand, everything up to a different level?
Yeah, it's very hard for me to see my personal brand from the outside, but like, of course, yeah, what makes what I do exciting, and the world of adventures and experiences and having access to some of the most unique things on earth. So I think that definitely elevated me, because then I was at the time the Formula One party guy, because I used to organize all the parties for all the drivers after the race, and we originally took our brand Aura, and then we got a license from Formula One and operated the F1 official after parties for Formula One. And that was an incredible stepping stone. And of course, yeah, Formula One and parties, who doesn't want to be connected to that? So it gave this amazing platform where you're meeting celebrities like Eminem, Jessie J, like alongside like all of the drivers. It was really something quite incredible to be part of. And now looking back on it was, amazing.
100%. It's interesting you said there, it's hard to look at your personal brand, because I think if we look at your businesses and the events you've done, you are very much a face of a lot of it as well. Like, people associate the companies with yourself.
Yeah.
Do you feel that's been an added edge? Because there's so many companies in your sector which are faceless corporations to some extent.
Well, look, I think there's always a balance with that. And previously, for brand value and to build your brand, you probably wanted to push the brand forward and have you behind the scenes. Now, the most recent trend is obviously CEOs to have their own Instagrams and TikToks and try and be more front-facing, because ultimately what's building brands, luxury brands and otherwise, is about being genuine and transparent. And I think that's why they want to connect with the owner and the CEOs of these companies. And that value is so important nowadays, and trying to make that clear understanding of, I'm not going to follow a brand anymore. I'm not interested in the brand. I'm interested in the people behind it. And I think that's been a real trend change. So I've been lucky to be part of that, but also to, be mentored and have those relationships with people like Richard Branson. I often go to his islands, inspired by the way that he has done a lot of what he has as well. So it's about embodying that lifestyle. And I'm lucky enough to experience so many great things that it means that billionaires can turn around to you and be like, I want your life. I want to do what you're doing. How do I start?
Yeah. And that is, like you said, a key component there, because you are dealing with high net worths, billionaires. If you don't experience some elements of that life, how are you placed to advise them, talk to them, advertise to them? Yeah,
look, I think that gave me a lot of confidence very early on. From my early career, I was doing very interesting things. I did one of the first tourist trips to the center of Antarctica when I was back in the Gumball Rally days, and that was one of the platforms that gave me a story, because no matter what room I go into, I always want to be the dumbest, poorest guy in the room, because that made everything else more interesting to me. And I think some people, to feel nervous, or they don't feel comfortable in those environments, they want to be the big dog in the room, and that's the last thing I want to be, because I know that I'm not growing if I'm that. So the opportunity to be in a room with those people, but have the confidence to be like, I've got an interesting story to tell, so you probably want to hear it. Like, I'm not as rich as you, I haven't done as many things as you, but like, I've done these things which are more than money can buy, and I can passionately tell you about what I've done. And I think that gave me that inner confidence from a young age.
Yeah. And across the companies as well, you've taken that storytelling aspect to actually create experiences rather than just selling products.
Yeah, very much. Look, because I think that nowadays the experiences, people value that far more than products, of course. And but there's so much more depth to that. Yeah, of course, we always speak to our corporate clients, and yeah, you can take your clients or employees out to a football match and they can watch a football game. But imagine taking them driving up volcanoes in Iceland and pulling them out of the snow. And like the reality is that the price points can be similar when you're looking at VIP hospitality versus a trip that's really life-changing. And the feedback we get from how people connect on our experiences is so different. You're making friends for life. You're coming on trips. You're meeting like-minded people, and you're doing things that you've never dreamt of. And that, whether it's a trauma bond sometimes or from when you're getting really challenging situations, but it's really living life. And so we're here to go and explore, find what the most wildest things we can do on the planet or off the planet are. And I think that's such a exciting thing that I get to go and push the limits, find what those are, and then help inspire some of the most powerful and well-connected people in the world who are meant to be around and inspiring us. I can kind of, in my own little way, do that for the experiences and touch them.
Exactly. I think that whole corporate world's changing now, isn't it? In that once upon a time it was how much could you put behind a bar in Mayfair on a Friday night? Or it was always very much alcohol-based activities, whereas now people are looking at genuinely, there's 10 times the worth to, like you said, driving up a volcano as there is to everyone getting pissed in a bar. So it's the same money, but with much greater output for the company.
Yeah, I mean, I think I learned that from the nightclub days. Is you see how much people would spend in impulse on an evening, and now still, when I was just in St. Bart's a couple of weeks ago, it's like you see how much someone can still spend $500,000 in a nightclub on one night, which is wild. So it's but the disposable wealth, and especially in the younger age group now, has just grown so dramatically, and you start to see. I mean, in recent years, that massive cost hike that's come with travel, unfortunately, whether that be hotels doubling and tripling their costs over the last few years, as well as then those experiences. But the wealth that is now available and the money that people want to spend in that sector is enormous. And I think that it's also about well-being. It's looking at all of these key factors, people moving away from alcohol, more interested in spirituality, finding different things in life, and understanding more and being more aware of the value of what they want to do with their own bodies, or equally just trying to find how they can become better people and escape this kind of rat race that people used to be in the 9 to 5 in London and going to the bars every night. Yeah,
100%. So let's start digging into the Jonny Dodge empire. We just said before, 8 companies in the group right now, is
yes,
it?
Yeah.
So we could be here all day. We got a lot to get through. But let's start with MyOcean. I think that was your first big baby, wasn't it? So you've had the nightclub, you've got this break in Formula One, you're on the map. Where did the idea for MyOcean first come from?
So, I mean, we've had GPM for 16 years now, the events company in F1. But I mean, I've been passionate about yachts all my life. My father's business was actually fitting out super yachts. And so from the age of 16, I was at the Monaco Yacht Show running around boats. So it's been in my blood. And prior to that, our life was on the water. My dad was always sailing, and we used to have Sunseeker boats when I was a kid. So it really was a life on the water, and passionate about that. So it's come from that, but of course it's always driven by customer first. So we started to get a lot more inquiries as we took our own yachts for Monaco and Abu Dhabi races, things like this. We started to get a lot of inquiries for yachts, and of course during COVID things shut down with Formula One. It was time to look at other opportunities, and that was the escape for people. So that business has been running about 4 years now. So it's had a huge growth very rapidly, which I'm very grateful for how that's come about, but that spike in what people are doing. But we caught a new sector of the industry where you've got very legacy brands that have been around for hundreds of years in yacht broking. And we were built from the ground up to look after that new, younger consumer. And so that became our opportunity, is how do we talk to that young consumer? And as we are one, and I think that then became very easy language for us, and educating people for the first time on yachts. And then we got very much in that world of crypto and the younger audience in new tech companies. So it gave us this platform of being able to serve that very unique audience and start from the ground up doing that. And that's what it just accelerated us overnight. Yeah.
And that industry must have been crying out for that, because like you said, yacht brokers 10, 15, 20 years ago, it was a very select sort of person that dealt with a very select audience. Now there's people completely new to that market. How have you seen that demographic shift?
I mean, look, in the last recent years, I mean, we've really seen the average age of a yacht buyer drop by about 10 years. I mean, it's been enormous, and that changes everything in the industry, from what type of boats you build, where they're going, what they're doing. So all of these aspects reflect back from just a different type of consumer, and also the way that the whole world has changed in terms of what we see now with our travel group. And is a different way of living, a more nomadic lifestyle. And what does that mean for us? We've got clear metrics and seen how people now go on traveling with larger groups for longer periods of time, because that means they travel with their employees, their family. They'll not go on holiday. They'll go for 3 months at a time, and it'll be a work trip, and they'll work and live. So that idea of what used to be your standard 2-3 week holiday in Spain in the summer, and that's your thing, and that's your holiday, is now changed to living, traveling the world nomadically. And if we can do that, a yacht is a wonderful platform for that.
I'm sold. I'm sold. And I think for the audience listening today, obviously there'll be a lot of our listeners who know who you are, know who the brand is. There'll also be people that won't have heard of Jonny Dodge before. Fantastic, you do now. But let's just explain to them the kind of yachts you're chartering, because people have an idea of, like you said before, the Sunseeker out in Dubai Harbour.
Yes.
But I mean, I have seen the boats that you've organised trips on. For anyone who knows Flying Fox, can we call it a yacht? a super yacht, a vessel and that. But I mean, you are not messing around.
Yeah, those are. I mean, it's very exciting to be right at the top of the industry, and that's where we started. We were lucky enough to get our break doing the biggest yacht charter in history at the time. So chartering Flying Fox is 136 meters. I mean, it's the biggest yacht for charter on earth. So it was quite an experience, and luckily enough, I went along with friends on the trip. So it was just an incredible experience for a month on board in the Caribbean, and those types of vessels are just otherworldly. So you're effectively taking, for what anyone wouldn't understand otherwise, a cruise ship, and turning that into a place where it's just a place for 12 or 15 guests and 50 or so crew, and on board that vessel is a 2-story spa, 2 helipads, your own 12-seater helicopter, a full dive school, like everything you could imagine, 3 swimming pools. It really is just a floating palace. So, and a lot of the yachts we charter are as well. I mean, we have yachts for sale that are just, and again, our most recent listing is a all gold 50-meter yacht made of carbon fiber.
I know the exact yacht.
Called Kalila. It's absolutely one of the most iconic yachts on earth. And of course, that's what's appealing more to the younger audience. A few years ago, like that wouldn't have been interesting at all. Now you can be the most interesting guy in that harbour because you're the only one with the gold yacht. There's always someone with something bigger, but that's certainly iconic and suiting the younger audience and demographic nowadays.
Exactly. And you said that Flying Fox trip was one of the first trips you did.
Yeah.
How did you get the chance to go in? That's like from 0 to 100, isn't it? right at the top of the game.
Well, my business has always been about my network. So the relationships I have with my clients are my friends first, generally. Yeah. And that's what's made me build that network and platform. And it's so important that the strongest value for me has always been the network, the relationship, and bringing you to level up. So it was just a very close friend of mine that was also a client. We were on holiday together on another yacht on a 66 meter called Octo. Again, it's black, sleek boat with its own helipad and swimming pool and things. And we just saw it in the distance and we were like, should we just call them, see if it's free next week? I was like, yeah, let's give them a call. So that's how it started.
Yeah, like everyone said, please do go and check it out because it's an unbelievable yacht. And for someone looking to charter something like that, what would the going rates be on something like Flying Fox?
So you're looking recent discount on the weekly charter rate, but you're looking at about 3 million euros a week. But generally, you're adding about 50% on top of that for local VAT, tips, and your APA, your provisioning allowance for your costs on board. So, you're looking up
5 for the week.
Yes. So that's where you're at. But I mean, an average yacht charter for us will be 100, 150,000 euros a week for a 100-foot vessel. That's your kind of day-to-day charters.
Unbelievable.
For sure.
So in our discussion so far, a central part of each company you've been involved with has been that personal network that you've built. It's been so strong and served you so well to date.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know from in Dubai, you're a great networker. You're out about mixing with people. Now, when you start to expand the businesses beyond your network and into new markets, how have you found like the most effective marketing strategies? Take the Gold Yacht, for example.
Yeah.
How's that being put out to the wider audience?
I mean, I've got such a great platform for social media, which I think, again, has come through people's interest in this sector. And just this month alone, I've had 100 million views on my content. So it really starts to go. I think that people before didn't think that social media and luxury was something that you could connect together. In fact, I remember when I had the nightclub, you were like, no, we can't put on social media that's the cheesy way of doing it. And now we use that as the platform. So if I can get 100 million views of my content about selling a yacht, so seeing people behind the scenes of what we're doing, how we sell the yachts, what we do, people are fascinated by. So it's great to educate people through those platforms. So Khalila's had millions of views because it's such an iconic yacht. And I think that those types of things, we can bring people into this world, showcase them, and educate people, and hopefully inspire them to get there. So the reality is that we have both ends of the spectrum. You have billionaires who really do have Instagram, so they can watch and see what's going on, plus the aspirational groups that want to find out more.
Exactly. People think those people don't have Instagram, but there is a billionaire's wife on earth who's not sat at home scrolling through the reels, is there?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, and one of the other things I think so interesting about the yacht side of the company is you were one of the first people, really, even before this community building was a thing. You'd start to build these community holidays and actually bringing like-minded people together.
Yeah.
Was that just your natural personality that brought that together, or was it something you strategically set out to do?
As I've said with everything else I've done, it's always been passion first, but fortunately that's led on for what is clearly a current trend. And I think our goal across all of our group of companies is to build community. And I think that generally, if you were to ask me what is one of the key future trends right now, across all sectors of business is community. People are missing that in what they do. That they're missing genuine connection, and what we've now established is how do we build that. Yeah. So we built the Global Committee, which is a non-profit looking at how we can give back. And when we've got a lot of philanthropists and people who want to do more in life now, they've got everything they need. How do they give back? So bringing those like-minded people together was a great platform for us. So we used that, and then we started building more and more community, bringing people together, the opportunity to meet like-minded people, hang out with them, and whether that be from our group trips on super yachts through to our supercar rallies, through to now our resorts in Bali and the residences we have there, where we're building communities of like-minded people who travel and live nomadically. Now we can have all of these ways of connecting people, and I think that that's what people are passionate about: meeting people who are like-minded, relating to them, and it's the thing that we're missing a bit in society these days.
100%. People are crying out for that, because a lot of where community, like you said before, people have moved nomadically, etc., and that's broke up those traditional communities. Yes, and people are now desperate, whether it be through sporting groups or business groups, or like you said, holidays.
Yeah.
Because that traditional home and work communities have somewhat dissolved for people, haven't they?
Enormously so. And yeah, you find that in Dubai, we don't have those old historic communities. You have to build those for sure. So it's how do you connect people? But it's also in the luxury sector, it's done another thing where someone on their own, especially with the younger audience nowadays, they wouldn't necessarily have been able to afford 200,000-300,000 euros for a week's yacht charter. But if you split that between a group of you and it's only 20,000 a couple, you're like, look, that's actually my budget and I can afford to do something. So sharing that, or sharing jets as well, again, that's a great way of just bringing that cost price down. And you find that a lot of our clients do. It's not a core part of our business because it's very labor intensive, but we like to create this as a platform for really our close community and build that, because we find a huge value in our close network of clients.
It also brings a different aspect to it, doesn't it? Because you go with your family on the yacht, beautiful week. If you go as one of 20 people on a community holiday, you'd hope to think there's some long-term deal coming out of that. Like, you're meeting like-minded people, there's going to be a way you can benefit them or they can benefit you.
Yeah, hugely. Yeah. I think that people nowadays, again, relate to that a lot more. And for me, whenever I'm on a trip, whether I was in St. Bart's last week or going to St. Moritz and Davos this week, it's about all those people you meet. It's very much, it's a blend of social relationship building and business. Nowadays, you can't just kind of pick up the phone and do those deals. It's about building the relationship, whether that be the use of social media to build that relationship. Because I think that equally, people associate with me and now get to know me because they see me on social media. So they form a bond even if they don't get to spend the time with me, which is, again, why I love that platform so much.
Yeah, it's people want to know who they're buying from, what they're doing, etc.
That creates trust, and I think that's essential in today's society.
Exactly. If people can spend their money with one person who they know, another person they don't know, they're always going to go down your route. And I think the incredible thing about the products, the services you have, is, wow, they look good on social media, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, when you're sending clients up in rockets and going and taking super yachts out and sending private jets around the world, then yeah, it's certainly an amazing bits of content and exciting life to live.
Yeah, you're definitely not short on content. So you mentioned there the jets.
Yeah.
Obviously, huge natural synergy with the yachts, but how did that kind of come into play for you?
I actually... 7-8 years back, probably longer, I lose track, but I launched a jet company. I was very passionate about that, or an airline. It was called Silverjet. I bought them out of administration. If you've ever heard of that company before, they were doing business class only London, New York trips, and I was very passionate about it and collaborated then with a friend of mine that founded Virgin Galactic, one that set up a light jet operator, and the CFO from AirAsia. And we brought that company together. I was the CEO, and we did a deal with Luton Airport and with Embraer, and put all that project together, which is super exciting. Yeah. At the time and the market, we couldn't get the full funding to go through, but my gosh, I learned so much and was so passionate about aviation. And so it was always something in my blood again. And of course, the synergies with the yacht business, it grew from the demand for clients. So we've kept on booking and doing requests. And again, my MD and business partner, she had worked at Airbus before, and her father before that. So it gave us a great platform. And we started, again, at the top of the market, chartering ACJ and BBJ. So effectively what you would then take on an EasyJet holiday, but gut it out into a full VIP configuration. I mean, up to the extent of us chartering one of the biggest private aircraft in the world, an Airbus A330 VIP configuration. So again, just taking 10 or 12 guests on an aircraft like that, which had gyms, cinema rooms, bedrooms, it's a complete other world and absolutely incredible. Yeah.
And it seems like every industry you've gone into, you've just gone straight in and disrupted on day one.
I think I'm lucky there's a big shift in these industry sectors at the moment. So everything's about timing in business. Yeah. And if you look at that across all entrepreneurship, it's about timing. You can have the right idea. And I've had them in the past, and they haven't worked. Yeah. So I think that I've kept pushing. And when I found that right timing, I've been able to push forward on it. And I think that I've got a lot of inner confidence in what I've been able to achieve in the past, and educating people that nothing's impossible. And I think that so many times people, and I see this in different companies and in mine, and people go, "That's not possible." And I'm like,
"It's always possible."
It's always possible. It might take enormous amount of resources and enormous amount of money, but it's definitely possible. But for fun, should we try and work out how it would be possible? And trying to take that challenge. And I kind of have my little cheat codes for my team, and I go, "Look, here's our cheat codes." And one is, imagine that project that I've asked you to do. Imagine that I've asked you to do it 10 times bigger. Yeah. So rather than it having to turn over $1 million on that project, it's now got to turn over $10 million. And they're like, well, we need to change the location, change all of the people working on the project. We need to change the sales mechanisms. We need to change all the logistics. I'm like, great, go and do that. And then come back to me. And then if you can then turn around and go, well, now it's a $2 million project, then all of a sudden you've doubled the opportunity. So I think that happens so many times when people just go, well, how can we make something 10% better? And I'm like, I'm not interested in that. And look, we're still a fledgling company, so our ability to double revenue and double profits on some of our companies is very easy at the scale we're at. And the goal is obviously to go much further. And what Tony taught me when I was younger was always that phrase is dream big. If I had a business partner when I just come out of uni in my early 20s that owned an airline, a football team, all these things, I was like, well, why can't I? And that really kind of goes, it just levels you up on all of these counts. So I think dream bigger is always the phrase I go with.
100%. Because I mean, the people you surround yourself with, it's so important. I think it's really quite sad when you see people who are being dragged down by the people with them. And what you said earlier just hits home. You've got to be that smallest fish.
Yeah.
And as soon as you find yourself becoming a big fish in that pond, it's time to jump into the next pond, be the smallest again, and that's how you grow.
100%.
It's that feeling of being uncomfortable, isn't it, where you just keep pushing forward.
But that's what I'm passionate about. And again, it's saying to people like, people think, oh, I'm thinking really big. I'm like, unless you're thinking as big as sending 100 rockets a day to Mars, which is Elon Musk's goal, then you're not thinking big enough. And when you start to put things like that in perspective, you go, yeah, I'm not thinking big enough. No. So it's always what is the greatest possible opportunity, and then scaling back for that. Yeah, aim for the stars, hit the moon.
Exactly. I mean, I don't think any of us thinking quite as big as Elon. He's got some wild ideas, hasn't he? And with the private jets, even more so than the yachts, I think over the last few years, the accessibility of private jets seems to have gone through the roof, with more and more people you might not expect to be traveling on them. We've got the whole influencer market now using them. Business seems to be utilizing them more than ever. How's demand been in that market?
Again, the growth is huge, like you say, and I think the accessibility or the age group and the interest of people doing it, and that's fluctuated from, of course, we look after governments traveling on large aircraft, but we look after groups of 10 friends that want to go away on holiday. And when you look at even big aircraft on big trips, I mean, when you're talking about a mid-size or like a larger aircraft, you're really looking at kind of a group of friends that could go from Dubai to London. It might be a $60,000 cost, but if there's 10 of you sharing it at $6,000, probably not far off what you would have spent on a first or business class ticket. So you start to go, well, for the experience, I don't mind paying the extra. So we found a lot of younger groups coming together to come on these trips now, for sure. So there's certainly a demand for that.
Yeah, I think that's the mainstream aviation. They're almost helping the private aviation.
Yeah, with that increase in cost of general travel overall for consumers, I think that the jet industry the costs haven't increased as much as some of the airline costs are going up what they're charging.
Exactly, and the service going down at the same time. So My Ocean, Your Sky, both unbelievable businesses, such an exciting industry to be involved with. We've got to find out about this space travel. Yeah.
So space experiences. We set it up 5 years ago, and I had a great advisor and mentor in that. Alex Ty, he founded Virgin Galactic with Richard, and that really was again having the right people around me in that right environment. I then managed to meet with Richard several times and get to know him. Managed to meet with Elon, and then send our first clients up with Jeff Bezos' company, with Blue Origin, into space about 2.5 years ago now. But that company started with doing zero-G trips and jet fighters, and started that training process for customers. But now it's real life, it's happening. So sending our first clients to space was a real incredible moment for sure.
So you've already sent your first clients to space. Okay, fantastic. When was that?
2.5 years ago.
2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And what was the feedback on the trip? How did everything run smoothly with it?
Yeah, I mean, look, doing the trips like that are just absolutely incredible. I was out in West Texas at the launch site for Blue Origin, and it's just an incredible place. And again, you're dealing with people day to day that just have a different level of what's possible. And if the average person working in Blue Origin, whether they're cleaning the floors or managing the rockets, they believe that they can go to Mars and go beyond to the other planets and colonize space. And it's like, if that on a basic level you think about every single day, you start to realize what's possible and the realms of possibility longer term.
Yeah. And you're now really in a position where you can start to offer billionaires, high net worth individuals, people who have seen everything, experienced everything. You're now offering them something they've never seen before.
Yeah, of course. I mean, these trips go up to, endless, but you can go up to $60 million for a trip, and you can spend a week up in space. You can go to the space station. So really, if you've got that budget, it's people's next passion. And I see that we developed this conceptual idea around space yachts and never expected it to take off. And all of a sudden we were contacted by a company building a space capsule and a shipbuilders, a super yacht builder. And they were like, well, let's look at this idea. And we were like, well, why don't you guys collaborate? Because ultimately you've got clients for the yachting industries spending $500 million to $750 million on building a yacht is a platform to travel. Like, why all of a sudden could this not merge into private spaceships and people going up and having their own space stations and living up there? When the figures start to get closer to what's economically possible, you start to see why people would do that. So it's fascinating that maybe the next super yacht is the space yacht.
A bit unbelievable. And realistically, how far off that do you think we are?
I mean, people are going to space all the time now. This is a very regular thing. Virgin Galactic are flying, Blue Origin are flying, SpaceX are taking consumer customers. Consumer customers are going on spacewalks. This is happening on a daily basis. When will it come down to a price point that people can afford? Again, it depends. That's all relative, I guess, of what you think is affordable. But over the next 10 years, it'll be a very accessible thing. But just to remind people, we can get you on a trip to space in the next few months if you really wanted to go.
They just give you a call and you've got that booked in for them?
Yes.
Yeah. And will we be seeing Jonny floating around in space soon?
I'm signed up, so let's see how long it takes. There's a lot of people looking to go, so yeah, for sure.
Amazing. And one of the things I think really stood out for me today is you've talked time and time again about these key influential figures in your life, mentors, people who've inspired you. You've had the opportunity with Tony early in your career and the likes of spending time with Richard Branson and Elon Musk. How did those opportunities arise for you?
I mean, each one separately, but generally through me being passionate about connecting with people and being like very interested in sharing and giving value back. It's very hard to meet someone in these rooms if you're not giving value. So it was understanding what I can do and why I'm interesting, rather than trying to take something from them. It's trying to share something with them. So if I can share about some of the unique experiences I've had, from climbing mountains through to getting shipwrecked on desert islands and going to Antarctica and these types of trips and experiences, I got to tell my story of my businesses, what I do, and sharing my knowledge and what I've learned through my adventures and passions. And no matter who you are, that becomes interesting. And so I've tried to share with people and connect with them on a different level. So when I first connected with Elon, it was talking about Antarctica, actually. And so I think that's what's been a different way of and perspective of doing it. I'm not there clambering for something from these people, and I can share my knowledge and insights and talk on their level. Ultimately, everyone's on the same level. No one's better. We're all humans in this world. So I don't think it's about trying to look up to these people on a day-to-day basis, but it's about trying to connect with them and relate. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, whether it's become starstruck or whether they get a bit greedy and try and take advantage of these people, all of a sudden they're clambering around them, being unauthentic, and it just shines through and pushes people away, doesn't it?
Yeah, very much. Yeah. And I think that in this world of people need to be more genuine, and that's really been my mantra about how we do everything in business, is be genuine, be open, be clear. Yeah. And I think that's
we're struggling with that in general in business at the minute. there's a lot of people not keeping that. And across the board, with a lot of the highly successful people you've met, what would you say is the key common denominator and trait that shines through in all of them?
I think that they're very passionate about what they do. They're very focused, and those elements are key in terms of how you build those things. But of course, it's always about seeing such a greater vision of how you can ultimately affect humanity. And again, it's one of those multiple numbers. is if you approach every project going, how can I affect over 1 billion people with this project? And these people have, like, they touch billions of people's lives. So it's looking at things at a scale that on a day-to-day basis we can't usually see. But just do that with your business. Whatever business you have, go, how could this business affect over 1 billion people's lives? No matter what it is, whether it's a car washing company or like it's like whatever it is, it's about kind of going, right, well, what would that look like? And all of a sudden it starts to change your perspective on things. It's not then about washing a car. It's then about going, how can I make people's lives better? What do they miss? Oh, they don't like the struggle. So you're then talking about a greater problem and an impact on society. So ultimately they're there to help mold and support society with their businesses. They're not thinking about how they sell a car or a hotel room.
Exactly. It's just bigger picture on a scale we can't comprehend for a lot of people.
Well, I think that's the key. That's the education platform here is start thinking like that. Yeah. Start changing your mindset. Start thinking 10x more. Start thinking about humanity. Start thinking about affecting 1 billion people's lives with any of your projects. And genuinely, that's going to inspire you. And even if that just starts to increase what you're doing by a tiny percentage, then that's achieved the goal.
Yeah, exactly. And with the work you do, obviously, you've got this great vision, great strategy, etc. A lot of people will see that on social media and think, what a life. But just talking today, the amount of travel you've got next week, there's a lot of graft involved in what you do as well, isn't there?
Look, I'm very passionate about it. So, yeah, of course, I'm living on a plane. And like I said, it's off to Davos for the World Economic Forum next week. And then London for one night. Then through the night back to Davos, back to St. Moritz for the snow polo. That was my week. But it's, for me, I'm excited about it. If I didn't love it, I wouldn't do it. Yeah. So the key is about being able to do all of this and be able to work at the same time. And that comes down to also working on my leadership skills, which is I've got a great team around me, and it's something that I try and improve every day. It's key to be able to support your team, and that's the only way you can build your businesses is what you have around you. And again, that's a great character trait of these people that I'm around, is seeing great leaders and understanding how to speak to your team, how to give back, what value you're adding to others. It's been essential in building what we have.
I think that's one of the hardest things as well, isn't it? Is learning how to inspire not just a small team, but multiple people from, in your case, different nationalities, different backgrounds, different companies, how to keep all of them pulling in the same direction.
I think for me, it always comes back down to the simple things. So it's taking away from what we sell and going back to why we do it. And it's always start with why. It's the essential way to build really a passion for why you're doing things, and people start to understand and care about it. If you're just selling a product, it becomes less interesting. But if you start to understand more about our why, our narrative, our story, and that's what I want our team to buy into and our consumers. So I think that's the way to really add value to an organization and build from the ground up.
100%, and it shines through in the fact you've still got the hunger for it.
Yeah.
After all these years, because it'd be easy to think, I'm ready to go back to the countryside in Somerset, get the dog, sit by the fire. But you still, after all these years, you genuinely love what you do.
Of course, there's always something new to explore. There's always a greater adventure. So whether it's here or in space and beyond. So yeah.
Perfect. So let's dig into those adventures, because I think people have heard about the business. They've heard about this fantastic black contact that you've got, but you've also personally experienced some of the greatest adventures on earth. Which really stand out for you?
I think there's been so many. My first trip to Antarctica really changing my mindset on what's possible, landing in the interior and feeling like being on another planet, being on Mars. And that really then threw me and equally gave me a passion for adventure. And that was just like another planet, the way you kind of survival gear, all of these things. Then through to surviving on a desert island, 10 days, no food, water or shelter in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. That is something that not only it's about so many different factors there. Forget the food and the water bit. You haven't got your phone.
I'm out.
So 10 days without contact to the outside world. And there were 6 of us on the island. And the only thing that mattered is who could make fire and who could catch fish. And that starts to reframe everything. All of a sudden, whether you're a big businessman, whether you've got millions of dollars, whether you've got all the connections, none of those things mattered. It was just the people that could help us survive.
So this 10-day trip, did you organise this one, or you took part in it?
I took part in it,
okay.
yeah.
And this wasn't for TV?
No, we actually took the island of Bear Grylls, what was the island, and the Survivor TV show as well, but both of them used that same island in the Pacific. So outside of filming, and actually the day we got back, the Bear Grylls team were going in, so we met all the people going in. We're like,
you guys are mad doing this.
So that was an incredible experience that really gave me a lot of insights and something that I'm very grateful for.
Yeah, and these trips like Antarctica and the desert island, etc. What are you walking away with from these in terms of business? Is each one you're coming away with a complete fresh perspective? Would you tell other entrepreneurs this is a great opportunity for them to get out of the office and actually learn things?
Oh, of course. And for me, adventures has purely been my passion. I don't think that we don't have the right client base and the mix of people that want to do things quite as extreme as I do. So these things are set, but we put a spin on it, and we can do it in a luxury way. But yeah, for me, it's been really about pushing myself. I think that, again, it was understanding that nothing's impossible. And for a guy that realizes that thinks nothing's impossible, it's bad to think that 10 years ago, I'd probably never run more than a kilometer. And then one day I was like, oh, these people who do these 10K runs, I was like, how do they do that? And so that was my first step, is going, it's not impossible, it's not impossible, it's not impossible. So I went to the gym one day and I was like, I'm going to run 10K. And I kind of got there and I did my first 2K and it started adding up, and I got to 10K and I was like, this is possible. Then I did this 10K run in London and I was like, right, let's go and climb the 7 summits, the 7 highest continents in the seven.
It's a bit of a jump, that, Johnny. 10K in Battersea Park to 7 highest summits.
So yeah, it was. And then again, my first climb was, as is many's, is Kilimanjaro in Africa, and realizing that very little is about your physical fitness, and so much about your mindset. Yeah. And since going on to climb Elbrus in Russia and other places, and going up to Nepal, it's so interesting to see that really that summit day is such a unique day. You're waking up at 10, 11 p.m. at night after hiking for days, absolutely exhausted, lack of oxygen, very little sleep. And then you start hiking through the night, and you're there taking the smallest footsteps, because if you take too larger footsteps, you start to come out of breath, you start to sweat, the sweat could turn to ice. There's so many factors that you're then controlling. So it's really about the power of the mind at that point. And you're there at 3, 4 a.m. in the morning in the pitch black with a head torch on. Like that experience is so powerful, and the ability to realize that you control all of this with your mind. And once you can see that with your own physicality and what's possible by yourself, it gives you such a huge inner confidence, much like surviving on the desert island did. Like the fact that I've managed to make fire by rubbing sticks together and catch food doesn't help me in day-to-day society, but it does give me a huge inner confidence in my ability to achieve things. And I think I can then take that back to business. Yeah.
I mean, it gives you that inner confidence, because confidence is just something we build day by day. And it's something I've concentrated on in the past, is that people tell themselves little lies every day and tell them they can do things they can't. It all builds up to a point where you don't really trust yourself. If you know that you can action everything you say you're going to do, you've just got that belief, that drive to keep pushing forward.
Yeah, I think I've just really learned that difference between how much it's the power of the mind, how much you can really control.
Yeah. And I think with those trips there, people are going to move more and more towards them, because we've had this very luxury for a few years, people liking beach holidays now, but you look at these high net worths now, everybody wants an adventure.
And
people want to do something they've never done before now.
Oh, there's huge amount. We've seen a very recent trend on it, and I've started to connect with all these guys, and obviously because of my following, they've then connected back, so I've been chatting with a lot of them. But the first one became very well known of the guy that ran across Africa.
Yeah.
And what subsequently, the growth has been absolutely enormous. So I've been chatting recently with a couple of guys, one that's cycling around the world. So he started that about nearly 250, 300 days ago. His daily updates. He's now in Australia, started from the UK. And another guy that I was speaking to just last week who's doing the world's largest triathlon, which was swimming the English Channel, cycling to Everest, and then climbing Everest. And again, he just came through here a couple of weeks ago onto Pakistan now and cycling through. So the people's desire to really push themselves. And what I tell everyone is set yourself a year goal, just that year defining experience. So whatever that is, go out and set that goal, whether it's to stop smoking, run a marathon, do something that defined your year and that you can tell that story about at the end of the year. So now we're all writing New Year's resolutions or almost forgetting them. Why don't you just go and write one thing down this year that you want to achieve as a big goal that you can look back and tell everyone, in 2025, I did this.
Exactly. Otherwise, the years fly by. There's nothing to show them by. But if you've just got that one achievement each year, unbelievable. So the past 20 years have been action-packed for you. You've achieved so much in that period. Obviously, today what really shone through is you've got this amazing outlook on life, this attitude to achieve anything. Also, I think the attitude to constantly improve and get better. Yeah. So what's the plans for the future? What are you aiming to achieve over the next decade?
I think what I touched on earlier was about community and how I see that as a huge trend in everything we do. So my goal is really to start focusing on the global committee, which is really our giving back arm of our group, and start to bring more of those people together and do that also with the way that people are living. We have Global Base, our first real estate project in Bali, and phase one of that opening in just a month or so's time. And that's been so interesting to see that people live and travel nomadically now and bringing those communities together. So I'm so excited and passionate about building homes and communities for people around the world and how that's going to evolve travel and the entire industry over the coming years, where people are going to start to live in a very different way than they have done before. And I think we're just at the stage of that. We see that with people living in Dubai. You don't live here, tend to be all year round. You tend to go back to another place. There's so many more expats. People aren't living in the places they were born, so they're generally not staying in these places for the whole time. So it's fascinating to see how we'll evolve, how we'll live differently, how we'll move differently, and how we'll connect as communities. And I want to be at the forefront of that next.
Well, I'm 100% sure you will be at the forefront of it. Well, Jonny, it's been an unbelievable conversation today. It's been inspiring. I think the points you've made about just people dreaming big, not just believe in yourself, you can achieve anything. And if you aim that big and come to there, you've done unbelievably well. Yeah. The contact book you've got is amazing. And I think for anyone looking for luxury experiences, once in a lifetime experiences, you are the man to speak to. You said about your social media, great content there. Where can people find out more about you?
Search Jonny Dodge on Instagram and you'll find all the adventures we get up to.
Yeah, exactly. Put Jonny Dodge on Google, Instagram, he'll be everywhere. There's some, even if you're not in the market to buy that, just to see the experiences and dream big, it's a great inspiring platform. Jonny, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. To everyone listening, please remember to follow, like, and subscribe. And we've got some great guests coming up over the next few weeks. Thank you very much.